love I bore to thee, 'tis past that melody.
The Divine Comedy are a somewhat curious band from Northern Ireland. They certainly have a niche of their own. They were formed in 1989 by their lead singer, principal songwriter called Neil Hannon. There have been times in the history when it's been basically just him, and he is the linchpin. Currently has some of the members officially who are part of the band. In that time, he/they have produced 12 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the second album by the Divine Comedy. The first was a complete flop, and to the extent that it's been deleted from the publisher's catalogue. And Neil Hannon remade the band completely for this album, and there was a distinct change in style. And I would say that this is the style that I think of as Divine Comedy, the band predominantly. So I'm aware of them. I have at least 2 albums of theirs, but not this particular one. A lot of people might know them from their hit single National Express, which is a really good song, but is not as typical of them as you could get. It's more poppy than their general stuff. They're described generally as being chamber pop, and this is a term that I've seen floated around for various bands, and I think it applies to Divine Comedy possibly more than to any other band that I've come across, particularly because they have a tendency to use classical instruments in the songs. So I just want to step back and do a little bit of explanation as to why that term has come about. So classical music is this kind of general idea of a whole lot of music that falls under this big banner, but actually there's lots of different kinds of music that people think of under that banner of classical music. The most obvious one is orchestral music. So that's music created by a large group of instruments that are generally thought of as the classical instruments, non-electric instruments mostly. But there was another branch of in some ways, the same kind of musically oriented stuff that was called chamber music. And this was distinct from the orchestral music in several ways, but the most important one is that it's much fewer instruments. So the classic example of chamber music is a string quartet. Okay, so it's a small number of instruments, and it's designed to be played not in large concert halls, but in people's homes, and which is where the word chamber comes from, because chamber is just a word for room. So chamber pop is like a pop version of that, and tends to use classical instruments, and if not, then kind of a classical approach to the music. And there's quite a lot of overlap with the idea of art pop as well. In this particular album, there's quite a lot of harpsichord, particularly, and there's one track where the harpsichord is played very, very fast indeed. But also there are other tracks on this album that are band tracks that you kind of think of as a light rock band. There is one track which books both as trends in that it's an electro track. It's called Europop. For obvious reasons when you hear it. And there is one track that's kind of an almost sound effects, but done musically, which is about a train. The most recognisable thing about the Divine Comedy, though, is Neil's voice. His vocal delivery is very particular to him. And it reminds me of singers from the 50s, where it kind of reminds me of songs like Jackie and stuff. I mean, I don't know Jacques Brel particularly well, but the sort of singing style that you might think of as more like some of the Andy Williams and people like that. It's there's a really strong voice there, and it feels like he's holding back. He holds on the notes quite long, and he's got quite a lot of expression in there with it, so that's good. The other thing is that the lyrics are generally quite unusual as well. One of the particular things about Divine Comedy songs is that they tend to be written in full sentences. And now I know a lot of other people do that, but actually a lot of pop and rock music is done in snatches of phrases, whereas this is most definitely kind of full sentences. You've all got the words in there, and it's a bit like prose. And the sentences often wrap over the ends of the lines, so you get your rhyme happens kind of partly in the middle of a sentence, and then it keeps going, so it moves over into the next line, and possibly the sentence could span 2 or 3 lines. I might begin in the middle of a line, because that's just the way he writes. The subject matter is very literary, so stories from various sources, their own minds as well, or his own mind, but also the stuff here that is alluding to or directly from F. Scott Fitzgerald, Anton Chekhov, and William Wordsworth. The attitude is mildly satirical at times. I'm going to refer back to the Europop song, which is definitely satirical, and quite whimsical. There's definitely a sense of humour going on. There's a kind of, he's poking fun at life and all sorts of things. And it's just intelligently done. It's clever words, clever ideas. And I guess you could think of it as being highbrow pop. It's about as highbrow as you could get. I really like it. I've always rated the Divine Comedy. This album has not disappointed me in any way. I think there's some really good songs on this album. That's what I think. I'd love to know what you think. So let me know in the comments down below. That's it from me for now.